Okay, I'm calling this the fourfold path to Keygroup Enlightenment. I've written these steps down below in the description if you'd rather not listen to this drony voice and this shaky handheld phone here. Basically, I discovered that trying to learn something from YouTube is a lot like eating an apple with a toothpick. So I have kind of conglomerated all 35 videos I tried to watch on key groups and came up with a little system that I've made. And basically, if you follow these 4 steps, you'll be able to do this without a lot of friction. So basically, there's a couple different ways to do key groups, and this is going to involve all 61 of these keys. The idea here is to clone your Kronos, your Yamaha, your Summit, your whatever big fat keyboard workstation you've got, and put that onto the MPC. And then that way you can just leave your studio rigs at home and take this out to wherever you want and use any keyboard at all to drive it and have the same patches as are on your thing. So the threshold maneuver then is to hook up the wires and get so that you can hit the pads and get some kind of sound out of your module. After that, you're going to set up the pad so that this A1 pad is going to trigger this bottom note on your keyboard. That's important. Once you've done that, we'll go to the auto sample page and set up the parameters there. Finally, we'll just play the sound back and make a few adjustments. And also we'll save that sample so that you can recall it anytime, any place you've got your MPC. All right. Okay, so here we are. We're powered up. 2 minutes to boot the Kronos. It seems like an hour, but it's only 2 minutes. I just timed it. 39 seconds for the MPC. So there you go. So let's look at the connections. These are my connections for the monitors. And this is the connection for the sampler input. And to make this right, you want to be online, and then you're going to grab the input level thing and bury it all the way so it's full open, and then back it off about 10 to 15%. And if you do that, you'll have fewer problems. And we're booted to an empty project, and the sample pool is empty, so everything's good to go, brand new. The input to the sampler is coming from just the left and right out from the Kronos, the stereo outs. So to make this pass through out of the Kronos, the audio comes in, we need to go to the menu, and we're going to go to sampler, and then we're going to go to in. And we should be able to hear that, and we can. And here, this red thing is nothing to do with the level. That's just for the threshold for some other purpose. I always thought that was how you adjust it. You don't. You do that at the input here. So if we want it a little higher, we just turn our... That's too high, because we're right up there. And I always grab a handful on your keyboard, because that's when you play it back, that's how it's gonna, that's what level you're gonna get. So if you just play one middle C and then put it all the way up as high as it'll go, when you play 10-finger chords, you'll get too much volume. So long story short, you're better off to put a little lower gain, a little lower input. That's about right. That's fine, good enough. So the next thing we need to do is, now that we've just got signal passed through, we're going to go to main, and we're going to go to this little tiny thing. It says MIDI right there. That's what that means. And we're going to go to MIDI here, and the input port, whoops, it says NOUT, nothing. So that's because I'm not connected. Good thing we thought of that. So we take this, and what you're going to have, where are you? Okay, is this little square Wapsugan on the end of your USB. And I've plugged it in to my Kronos, the square end of the Kronos. And now the other end of this handsome cable is going to go, and that is a whole different setup. That's the old USB A thing, and I'm going to just plug it into number 1. Are you upside down there? What the holy heck? Come on, genius. Okay, there, I'm plugging her in. That's the back. Now, if the gods are with us, and this is kind of a big iffy here, We should be able to go to this MIDI port window and turn, and it says Corona sound. Yay, that's a big deal. Now that may be because I monkeyed with this last night. Now, if that doesn't happen, if you don't see, your Yamaha or whatever it is that you tried to do, then you're going to come back to main. Whoops. You're going to go to menu and preferences and MIDI sync and look for your, see, mine says Corona sound right there. And you'll have to monkey with these things to get them to show up on the main window. And ours does. So that's cool. So now, our path has begun. So we can drive the Kronos from these pads. This is a big deal. We're almost all the way there. So now, okay, can you see this? They're different. That's lower, or one's higher, one's lower. I can't tell. So to straighten all this out, and you need to do this, is you go to the pad perform, and you want to, since I'm going to start on a C, and the piano starts on the C note, I'm going to change this, where it says scales and octave, go on, damn you, to C. And you've got to have this on Chromatic. It's on Chromatic now because I did a lot of this last night. But don't pick anything else. That's what you want, Chromatic. And now you can press C2. That's not C2. Sorry, my bad. That's C minus 2. So this is all the way down at the bottom of the keyboard. So you're going to put this all the way up. Okay, that's C1. And there it is. And it's important you're on bank A. So that's set up. Hallelujah. Now back to the main. Leave it on MIDI, and you're going to go to Menu and Sampler. And that is pretty good. That's what we're looking for. And now at this juncture, now you can see this little piano picture there. Go ahead and hit that. Now you're going to see a complex deal here. Input 1 and 2, that's what we've got. And we're going to dial this down to C1, because that's what our bottom note is on a 61 key Korg product. If you were on a Yamaha, this might be different. You'll just have to experiment. And come up here. Where are you? Sorry about all this. Okay, so now we want to be on C6. That's going to give us 61 notes. Our note stride, that's a whole different thing. Since we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 octaves, I don't know what that's going to do. But I had dialing this back to 1. The idea here is that it's going to sample one. It's going to make one sample per key. So you're going to have 61 samples in your deal. Now it's worth figuring out that that's going to take up some storage. I've got hardware, an SSD drive in the MPC now, so that's where I'm going to put it eventually. But the MPC won't stream from a drive or one of these SD cards. It has to load all its samples into memory in order to perform. So if you're using huge multi-samples, see, we can make this a multi-layered sample. You can kind of hear that that's a different sound if I hit it real lightly than it is if I hit it. So you can just hit all these things, but now you've got a sample that, a key group that collectively is pretty big. So you can't, I'm just going to do this once. And I like to make these ring out. So if you've just got a short sound, like a bip sound, you can just put it way down here to half a second or 1 second or whatever. And if you've got like an organ sound, that's the dramatic end of your song. You want to let that ring along, so you can just put 6 seconds. And this tail, yeah, whatever. I don't bother to name it because you can name it later. Some people say that names the samples. I'm not sure it does. I forgot to check. Sorry. So you might want to check that out. But you're going to be typing a lot. So I click Make Current Program. That'll set us up, and it'll tell you 420 seconds. So 6 into 420 is 7 minutes. So yeah, and this other thing where it says 600 milliseconds, milli means 1,000, so that's 6 seconds. Each key is going to ring for 6 seconds. So that's pretty much how that works. Basically, what this auto key group program is doing, and we just press do it, and it starts in. I'll turn that off for now, and it's going to take 6 or 7 minutes to do this, so you can watch Nikita or whatever's going on TV, play a hand of crib, do your thing, and come back, and this will all be done, and we'll be back when it's done. So it's this auto sampling thing is really just a sequence. It's just shifting MIDI notes into your MIDI device, your keyboard, and it's just playing that note, and then it's playing the next note and the next note. Now, where it said key stride before, you could make that put it on, a different number, and it would sample every other key or every fourth key. So you'd have like 2 notes per octave and make a much smaller file. And on a lot of samples, you can't hear the difference, and neither can your dog, and that's how they did it when they invented sampling. They just had like a middle C, and the rest of it was, and people mixed it up in their song, and it was fine. It flew. So it's up to you. If you're a fussy like me, you want to make 1 sample per key, and you've got a instrument like a piano. You can even do it multi-layers. So anyway, that's that part, and we'll be back when this is done. All right, our process is done. I've skipped a couple of things unintentionally. And whoops, I wanted to show you this Kronos can communicate either by MIDI, USB, or MIDI with this old-fashioned 5-pin DIN connector. And I had so much less trouble with the USB connection. So if your keyboard has that, I would suggest you use it. The one cable, and it's duplex. It goes back and forth, MIDI in, MIDI out, all in one go. If you're using an older device, you're going to end up using the MIDI cables, the old-fashioned kind, sooner. So, okay, as you can see, it's done. This, by default, just gives you MIDI, blah, 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 001 auto-sampled. And that, let me think, I'm gonna come over here. I'm going to turn down the volume on the Kronos. And obviously you can't hear through these little tiny speakers that are just kind of set up for this temporary workstation. Now you can hear rather that piano sound doesn't ring out. It doesn't, so we can adjust that. We're now at the 4th and final stage of our journey. So what we want to do here is you're going to go to Menu and Program Edit. And this is super important. You find this little, you find this thing that says Keygroup, and you're going to turn it all the way to the left so that it says All. If you don't have that, you're going to monkey with one of these